So how do you see revenue growing at PAI3? I know we've talked about the different aspects of the business, but particularly on the revenue, how does that grow?
So there's really three ways we make money, right? One is node sale, but that's not really to us a significant revenue source because the nodes cost a lot to make. And then we also give back tokens, which effectively ends up being to us a cash flow neutral statement, sometimes even cash flow negative, but generally speaking, nodes cost more than we sell them for right now. So that's revenue, but not really something we can put in the bank. Then you have the services revenue, and we have lots of clients, especially high domain clients like doctors, like pharmacies, labs, clinical labs like Quest, or the people you walk into and get imaging, MRIs, whatever. You have a football team, or professional sports teams. You have accountants, lawyers, so people are building agents. And in fact, there was a really cool article or a speech by Mark Cuban yesterday. If you looked him up on YouTube and LinkedIn, it's everywhere. And basically he said, everybody needs to employ AI in their business, they don't know how. And he went on to describe PAI3, right? And that's the real opportunity. That's the next multi-trillion dollar opportunity. I heard that interview or saw it, and I'm like, he must have read our website before he went in on the soapbox. But the point is that really smart money recognizes what we are doing, but more importantly, clients.
Yeah.
So that's your second tier, the revenue from clients. And the third tier of revenue, which we're going to launch as soon as token launches, is the marketplace, which is where people buy and sell data or publish their agents or their models, and we take 20% of the revenue as marketplace, right?
Gotcha.
Not 35 like Apple, 20. Yeah. And out of that 10% we keep, and 10% we invest back in the community in terms of reserves and insurance policy and all that stuff. So we're basically taking 10% of the revenue that is generated by the marketplace, and that is net revenue to us. Okay. So we have robust node sales, mostly enterprise now. In the early days, it used to be retail. Now it's enterprise buyer. Clusters, typically 3 to 5, 7 to 10 nodes at a time for a cluster. Yeah. Then you have the services revenue, which is growing very fast. And then we have the marketplace revenue, which hasn't started yet.
Gotcha. And you would think, talking about what Mark Cuban said, when you look at, in essence, it's edge AI, right? People are running agents, models on devices.
Correct.
Protecting their sensitive data. And edge models just seem to work better than a centralized server. And so we're starting to see a lot of kickback, pushback from these large data centers, whether it's community, governments, pollution, noise pollution, and
water rights, land use, a lot of issues here.
But also what we've seen with the emergence of blockchain technology. And even though that technology is now, over 15 plus years old, it's still in its infancy, but it's shown the benefit of distributed power instead of centralized power.
Yep.
And so, especially with the backlash lately on data centers, it's not sustainable to put all that in one place. So how does that bode for PAI3?
It's basically the world is catching up to our vision. I saw the risks of centralized data centers, both physical risk and logical risk and also political risk. And you saw that with the Gulf War, the first thing they hit was data centers.
Right, yes.
Because they know if they knock out your backbone, you can't communicate, you can't analyze, and that's how you neutralize even bigger powers than yourself. I don't believe in that centralized footprint. Right. So PAI3 network was designed to replace these data centers with a mesh. So we designed it from day one. And I knew our time will come, so in many ways the time is here, right? So nothing that we're doing is different than this reality. We were very focused on this world. Also, you mentioned blockchain. I truly believe that blockchain is a way to achieve fairness in any network.
Absolutely.
Because if you're going to rely upon my judgment, I could change my mind tomorrow and decide to take bigger piece of the revenue. Everything that I mentioned is baked into the smart contract on the chain, which means that even if I'm not running PAI3, somebody else is, they can just go in and say to Wayne, hey, your model that's really successful, that's making 100 million a year in revenue, I want 30% now. Yeah. You can't do that. It's in the smart contract. Then you have the blockchain-based insurance policy, where we actually insure AI, basically. And there's nobody in the world who's willing to or even contemplating insuring AI. The only reason we can insure AI is because we have a blockchain-based risk pool, which is absolutely driven by smart contracts, and I can take a single token out of it, even if I want to, unless there's a claim adjudicated and approved. So blockchain is really helping bring integrity, fairness, and transparency.
Absolutely.
So we are, if you think of a pie, the PAI3 is like a pie. If you divide it into a pie that you can eat, is 1/4 of that is blockchain, 1/4 of that is your mesh compute, 1/4 of that is your token, and 1/4 of that is your marketplace. So blockchain is a big piece of our system. Has to be.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we are human dependent.
Yeah, absolutely. And this was actually a question posed to me by one of our node owners. He owns several power nodes. And we were just on a call yesterday. It wasn't really about PAI3, but he had a quick question. He said, hey, so what is the mechanism? Obviously, we're preparing, look at PAI3 to be a successful business, but say something happens and the company goes away. How does their investment in the machine and the network live on after the company?
And there is certainly a dependence on the company, right? We are the ones promoting PAI3 to doctors, to lawyers, to accountants. So while we are still scaling, you are dependent upon PAI3 sales team to attract the next hospital, the next pharmaceutical company. So that's where we are focused on, is revenue growth for the network. Because anytime anybody builds a model, they're going to use your compute power. Yeah. They're going to pay you for node power. Anybody who publishes a model is going to has to share revenue with the monitors, the reviewers. So there's a lot of ways the network shares revenue, and that doesn't need us. But to bring people to the network, you need us.
Promote it, yeah.
Promotion.
Yeah.
Now, as the network scales, you will need us less and less. You can promote your own node and your own agents to anybody you like. It's just that it's still early stage and people aren't comfortable talking about edge AI. They don't really understand how to make this work. So you need us to make sure that it becomes universal. It's like early days of cloud. When it came out, people like, this is a joke, right? Why would I give up my data center to put my systems on your cloud? Now it's the de facto.
Yeah.
So we are also going to replace the cloud with a mesh, and we're going to be the de facto, but it's going to take a few years.
Yeah.
So the risk level decreases each year, and within a few years, it won't matter if you exist or don't, because everything is on the chain. All node operators are sovereign entities. They can do whatever they want. They're all connected by this protocol that's mature. Marketplace is functioning. So if I get hit by the proverbial truck, you don't really care that much.